That's gonna hurt.
Hey kids, welcome to the Music Snob.
The Music Snob.
Sure, it's fine. If you haven't been here before, I consider myself a music snob, where I know music, unless it sucks. I only like to talk about music that I like. And that could be a wide range of different things. I like country. I used to be a country singer many years ago. That worked out. I was even a comedian. That also worked out. I have no pictures of that. Anyways, I like country. I like rock. I like metal. I like some pop. I like some easier stuff. But what I want to talk about today, in case you haven't guessed it, now the opening song thing that I played. If you're Canadian, you might recognize it. If you're American, probably not. But that right there was "Eyes of a Stranger," My Way, by the Payolas, one of my favorite bands that ever existed. Good Canadian band, and the guitar player and future producer of that band, Bob Rock. With a name like that, you better. So if you could just take a second, hopefully it's not a 45-minute video. Take a half hour out of your life and watch this. If you're a big fan, like you love Metallica, you love maybe you like Michael Bublé, maybe you like The Cult, whatever. The best albums that they ever put out were produced by Bob Rock. And if you don't know the history of Bob Rock, well, here, come on a musical journey with me. Get your quad, get your truck, get your elephant, get your I don't know, can you ride a monkey? Come on a musical journey with me, the Music Snob. We're going to talk about Bob Rock. Bob Rock, producer, writer, mixer, sound engineer, musical god. Need I say more? His name is on your favorite rock albums of the last, say, 30 years. His name is in there. Look it up. Look in the back. If you don't know the name Bob Rock, come on the musical journey. We're going to talk about him today. Robert Jens Rock, born in 1954 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, one of the Jets. Moved to Victoria at age 12. Met a guy named Paul Hyde. Now, again, if you're Canadian, you know who Paul Hyde is. Met Paul Hyde in high school. They started a band. They toured around Vancouver Island for a couple of years until the late 70s. In 1976, Bob Rock, the future was calling, he got a job at Little Mountain Sound in Vancouver. Little Mountain Sound. You should look it up. There's a documentary on here about Little Mountain Sound. If I can find the link, I'll put it up here. Little Mountain Sound was, again, one of the biggest recording studios in North America. Again, Bon Jovi, AC/DC, Metallica. I don't know if Metallica was there. Motley Crue. Recorded some of their top albums at Little Mountain Sound. But in 1976, Bob got a job at Little Mountain in Vancouver, and he became an apprentice recording engineer. You see where this is going? Paul Hyde, who was his friend in high school, they had a band together earlier. He came to Vancouver, and the two, they formed the Payolas, which I already talked about a little bit. They were named after the 60s radio scandal, where people were, like the saying happening today, where record company weasels were paying off DJs to play songs by artists that probably wouldn't have been played otherwise, and it was known as Payolas. You know what I'm saying? So they named the band the Payolas. It caused issues with the record company. Eventually, they had to rename the band Paul Hyde and the Payolas, and later on, they actually even changed it just to Rock and Hyde, because it's just the two of them. It was really just Paul Hyde and Bob Rock. They had another, let's say, a revolving door of musicians that came and went from the Payolas. They recorded an LP, or an EP, I'm sorry, they recorded an EP for A&M in 1980 called Introducing Payolas. It's a good title. 1981, In a Place Like This. Now, okay, if you've ever watched any of these videos before, and I'm sorry if you have. Usually what I'm doing, I'll play like a song or two from each album. Now, what's happened here is somehow enough people subscribed and watched my crappy videos that I am now YouTube monetized. This is my sheets. Monetized. So I can no longer, like all the videos I played before with the music, I don't make any money on them. So I have to find a way to figure out how to continue on. Maybe I'll learn to play all the songs myself. Highly doubt it. Anyways, I'm only going to play the song at the start, and then I want to see where it goes. But 1981, Payolas released In a Place Like This. I think you should look them up. Maybe I should put some links to the actual YouTube videos up here. In a Place Like This was an album that came out. Had In a Place Like This, had China Boys, and this got them recognized around Canada. They were, nominated for Junos and stuff in Canada. 1982, No Stranger to Danger. And that is where, they had Romance. Of course, Eyes of a Stranger. Now, maybe I know if you're Canadian, you've heard that song. You know the song, Eyes of a Stranger. It's classic. It's a beautiful song. Start to finish, it's just sonically awesome. It was in the soundtrack, or on the soundtrack, to Valley Girl in the early 80s, which was a Nicolas Cage, one of his earlier movies where he learned to overact. 1983, Hammer on a Drum. They released Hammer on a Drum, which had, if I find, I'll find another who can do it right. It was, oh god, this album, this one, you'd have to find it on YouTube probably, because I found the album. I had it on a cassette when I was a kid, and I love the song. It's so cool. It's like, I'll find another who can do it right. It's just so weird and so cool, and it was a hit. But the album was never released on CD, so you can't find a physical copy of that. But I found a record at a record store in Vancouver. Eyes of a Stranger. Oh no, sorry. Back to Hammer on a Drum. 1983. I'll find another who can do it right. Where is This Love? A great song. And Never Said I Loved You, which was a duet with Carol Pope of Rough Trade. Now, there's another great Canadian band that probably you don't know of if you're not Canadian, but look them up. Great voice, great stage presence. Continuing on, 1985. This is where they changed. They were doing so well in Canada that the record company Weasels wanted to introduce them to the States. But they had a problem with the Payola name because of this scandal that they probably were all involved in. So what happened was they decided, hey, let's change it to Paul, Hyde, and the Payolas, because this is something that's happened. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Tom Cochrane and Red Rider. There's a band in Canada called Toronto, and later on they changed it to Hollywoods in Toronto. It just seemed to be the thing to do. So they changed the name of the band to Paul, Hyde, and the Payolas. They got David Foster to produce it, and it was loaded with singles, released in America, and great songs. Here's a World for You. Oh God, Stuck in the Rain. You're the Only Love. It Must Be Love. And Here's the World, which was the title track. Unfortunately, well, actually, no, before I even get into the unfortunate, it had special guests up the wazoo on this album. You should look this up. Maybe this isn't as much fun without me playing songs. Here's the link. You'll listen to it. I'll give you a second.
Huh?
Maybe not. Steve Porcaro of Toto played on this album. Paul Jans, another great Canadian boy. Great singer. At some point, I'll do a thing about Paul Jans. If you go to UBC, or is it what is the other one? If you go to college in Vancouver, you might know who Paul Jans is. He's a professor of music now. Co-writes with David Foster, and Adams and Valance, co-writing songs on this album. That's how big they were about to become, and for some reason, it just didn't take. So even though that album was pretty freaking cool, it didn't go where they wanted to. So they decided to rename the band again, Rock and Hyde. Released Under the Volcano, 1987. Had a great song, Dirty Water. Knocking on Closed Doors, I Will. This is a great album. This one was produced by Bruce Fairbairn, which I've talked about before. Remember the Dream Team from the Loverboy thing? Yeah, that guy. It's the album, in spite of the fact that the album did well in Canada, they essentially broke up. Even though they're still friends, they did another Payolas EP in 2007 called Langford Part One, which is named after a suburb of Victoria called Langford, where they both kind of, well, they got to know each other and grew up a bit, right? There was talk of a Langford Part 2, but it hasn't still not come out yet. But that said, Payolas is great. Rock and Hyde was great. I wish they were still going. But when he went to work at Little Mountain Sound, he was learning how to make the best rock and roll around. He became the producer that everybody knows him for. While working at Little Mountain Sound, he learned to mix. He learned to produce. He was working with Bruce Fairbairn, and remember I mentioned the Loverboy thing, the Dream Team, Bruce Fairbairn and Mike Fraser. And these guys, they were doing Loverboy. They worked on the AC/DC. They worked on the Motley Crue. They worked on all this stuff. And then bobrock started producing local acts around Vancouver in Little Mountain Sound. So 1979. Let's just talk about all the stuff. This is what he's produced. And I might even get into what he's just mixed. Producing. 1979. Produced his first album, Young Canadians. It's a punk band. I thought it was probably a school marching band. No, Young Canadians, a punk band in Vancouver. The Subhumans. 1980, The Pointed Sticks. 1981, he produced Payolas in a Place Like This, so he was learning. 1984, Servant. It's a Christian rock band. I didn't say you're going to know all of them. 1986, Zappacosta. Oh, that guy, Alfie Zappacosta. I think he's a teacher now too, as well. Look up Alfie Zappacosta. He had some great tunes in the 80s in Canada. The Cheer. Might have to look that one up. 1987, he produced the Rock and Hyde album. 1988, Kingdom Come, which was a German rock band. So he was getting well known already around the world, around the music circles. 1988 also produced Colin James. Colin James, did I say that 3 times? He's not going to reappear like Beetlejuice. Colin James is a great blues rock guitarist from Saskatchewan who lives in Vancouver. He's lived here for 35, 40 years by now. One of the best guitar players, one of the best singers, one of the best blues players. At some point I got to talk about that guy, Colin James. 1989. This is where things started to go through the roof. I only say that because I've been to Wyoming. 1989. He produced the Cult Sonic Temple. Remember that song or that album? Firewoman. The Cult. They had some great songs. This was one of them. A band called Blue Murder. I don't know that one. 1989. I already mentioned. Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood. He produced that. Of course, you remember Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Same Old Situation, Don't Go Away Mad. That was probably the best, in my opinion, best album Motley Crue ever released, and all due to Bob Rock. He also played bass on that one and did backing vocals. Oh yeah, they can get into that. Who plays bass on Motley Crue albums? He produced Loverboy. Big Ones was their greatest hits album. He produced the two new songs that were on it. 1990, a band called Little Caesar. Pan. Electric Boys. Some of these, maybe I shouldn't have read them all because I don't know what the hell they are. 1991, David Lee Roth, and I just did a video with that guy. A Little Ain't Enough. Bob Rock produced that. Metallica, the Black Album. What do I even need to discuss. Metallica's The Black Album. Metallica, now, they were going to be big no matter what. But if it wasn't for the Black Album, would they be, let's say, equivalent to the Stones at this point? Would they be in a? Would they still be relegated to arenas or showrooms? Or would they be doing headlining, playing 2 different nights, 30 different songs each night, or whatever the heck, in football stadiums? Would they be doing that if it wasn't for the Black Album and the next few albums that Bob Rock brought in there? He brought the best out of those guys that they could possibly be. He made them the best that they could be for a few years. Black Album, man. Sad but True. Enter Sandman, obviously. Unforgiven. Nothing Else Matters. What? Oh, God. There isn't a stinker on that album. And honestly, like, I was not a big Metallica fan before that album, and I've been one since. So, say what you want about this. He made a metal act doing weird time signatures, weird tunings, weird chording progressions, and songs about interesting things. He made that a mainstream rock band, and everybody knows Metallica. Also, 1991, Motley Crue, Decade of Decadence. Again, much like the Loverboy thing, he produced the new songs that were on it. 1992, Cher, Love Hurts. Now, I if you watched this before, you know every video, well, most of the videos, I mention, please share the video. And I put a picture of Cher up because Cher is a treasure. And I'm going to do it again later. Cher, Love Hurts. I'm sure maybe it was just covers. I don't know. Bon Jovi, Keep the Faith. That was a big one. Rockhead. Now here's Rockhead. Maybe if you don't know Rockhead. Rockhead is because people would call Bob Rock Rockhead. So he formed another band called Rockhead, and he did one, or he produced that album. I don't know how many they did. 1993, the Choir Boys. Remember the Choir Boys? Maybe you don't, because in North America they were called the London Choir Boys because of legal issues. 7 a.m. It's time for a party. Well, it's not even. I don't even think it's that same album. No, it's not. 1993, not the same album. But he produced the Choir Boys. So not only is he doing local Canadian or whatever, he's doing German now. He's doing the world's largest rock band. He's doing huge English bands. 1994, Motley Crue again. Motley Crue with John Corabi. So that one album with the other singer, I think they only did the one, but he produced that. And actually, you know what? I'm not a big Motley Crue fan either. But recently, because somebody in this house has every Motley Crue album, we were listening to all of them one day, and we got to this one, and I didn't even realize it was Motley Crue. The one of John Corabi. It deserves another listen. It does. It was pretty freaking good. And I would assume that Bob Rock had something to do with that. The Cult. Jeez, I don't even know what's on that album. But you know, you see a lot of these guys, they keep coming back. You do a great job. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Hey, we did that album with Bob Rock, and it was awesome. Hey, what should we do for the next album? Hey, I don't know. Let's call Bob Rock. He's good. 1995, Skid Row. Remember those guys? Of course you do. I talked about them a few times. Subhuman Race. He produced that album. Now, that was the last time, I believe, Sebastian Bach was in the band. And they're still playing those songs today. That's how good the stuff was. 30 years later. 1996. Who called again? Metallica. Load. Ain't My Bitch. Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, Hero of the Day. Come on. These are all classics. And just, again, if they weren't large enough already, and you go, oh my God, they had the Black Album, but after that, everything was... No. They had a next album was freaking awesome as well. And then, a year later, Metallica, Reload. Oh, look what was on that one. Fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. Unforgiven, I don't know the song. 1997 as well. Veruca Salt. I really don't know that much about that band. 1998. Metallica came calling to do Garage Inc., which again, it's covers ish. I think it's mostly covers, but what a great weird bunch of songs. And if they weren't big enough already with Load and Reload and the Black Album, Garage Inc. Can I get away with Masterpiece? I think it was. 1998. Bryan Adams, On a Day Like Today. I think that was his last good album. On a Day Like Today. Cloud Number 9. When You're Gone. That duet with Mel C. One of the Spice Girls. I think it was Pumpkin Spice. I'm not sure. 98. Motley Crue again. 1999. Is it Ty or Tal Bachman? Randy Bachman's kid, Tal Bachman. She's so high. I can't believe I just did that. Not a fan. Metallica, S&M. Do you have all of the, I'm sure you have Metallica ones. 2000, Nina Gordon of Veruca Salt. Now you see a pattern. Now Veruca Salt already did one with him a few years ago in 97. But now the lead singer is doing her solo thing and she's calling Bob, of course. 2000, Paul Hyde. Remember Paul Hyde of the Payolas? Paul Hyde. He had another solo album, and of course, who else would you call? If I had a solo album, I want Bob Rock in there. Except I'm not that good. Metallica. The I Disappear song from Mission Impossible 2. Always got to get the best. The Moffats. Some Canadian band. I think they're like a family band. A group of... It's like the Jonas Brothers, but Canadian. I don't know. Could be wrong. 2001, American Hi-Fi. Antifreeze. The Cult again. And a band called Econoline Crush. 2002. Are you guys bored yet? 2002. Our Lady Peace. Tonic. 2003. Metallica. Saint Anger. Okay, now this is where everybody's going to get pissed off. Say what you want about the snare. Say what you want about the quality of the album. I really like Saint Anger anyways. But I like it. You got to take the good with the bad. I think so. But because of that, it wasn't as well received. Metallica stopped calling. Now, they were dysfunctional. Look at the Some Kind of Monster, I believe, was the documentary about the recording of Saint Anger. Was it all Bob's fault? I don't know. But it's almost like, somebody was the fall guy. Let's blame Bob. We're not calling Bob anymore. So, say what you want about that. But, Bob had other things to do. 2004, The Tea Party. Simple Plan. You've heard of these bands. 2005, Motley Crue, Red, White, and Crew. Our Lady Peace again. 2006, Nina Gordon again. Lost Prophets? I never heard that one. Joan Jett called. The Tragically Hip. Now let's talk about the Tragically Hip. Now, oh God, I love the Tragically Hip. Best Canadian band that ever existed. At some point I got to do a thing about that. Look up, whether you're Canadian, whether you're American, whether you're from Timbuktu. I don't know where it is. Australia, New Zealand. Look on the Amazon Prime for the Tragically Hip documentary. I believe it was called No Dress Rehearsal. If you want to find out about the best band that ever came out of Canada. And it's a 4-part documentary about the rise, the continued rise, why they didn't break in the U.S. and nobody understands why, and the unfortunate passing of the singer. Yet they still did one more tour after he got diagnosed with cancer. He still played another Canadian tour, and everybody here watched it. Everybody here cried when he died. It Tragically Hip. Anyways, I'm off on a tangent. Tragically Hip, World Container. They had done a couple of albums that weren't even as good. They did a lot of great albums, and then they did a couple that were okay. And Bob Rock shows up, and World Container back at the top of the game. 2007, Payolas, Langford Part 1. He produced that, of course, which I already talked about. And then Michael Bublé called. Now, at some point, I think it was in 96, Bob Rock moved to Maui and built a studio there. And then everybody's like, well, we could get Bob Rock, but, where else? We go to Maui. and record. So he's got his little studio there in Maui. Oh, I don't know how let it was. His Little Mountain Sound has since, it's no longer there. So he had to do something. And so he moved to Maui, built his own studio. Everybody was calling him anyways. Michael Bublé calls, Call Me Irresponsible. I couldn't tell you anything on that album. I know who he is. But 2008, Gavin Rossdale of Bush calls and says, hey, we need you. The Offspring, DOA. Oh, DOA. That's a Canadian a metal punk band, a punk band out of Vancouver. God, DOA. Oh God, let's talk about that. 2009, Tragically Hip called once again with We Are the Same. Michael Bublé, Crazy Love. I know that one. 2011, 311. I don't know what that is. Bush got back together. Jan Arden, Michael Bublé. At this point, I'm just reading the names. There's so many. 2012, The Cult, Loverboy, Offspring, Nelly Furtado. Now she don't need bobrock, does she? Well, I used to love Nelly Furtado. I'm not a fan of the more rappy, pitch corrected crap. But she's a good singer, so I'm not sure if that's what's going on. But when Bob Rock comes in, he makes it sound great. So 2013, Michael Bublé again. 2014, Sarah McLachlan, Jan Arden, Bryan Adams. 2015, Offspring. 2016, The Cult. 2017, Bush. 2018, Jan Arden. Something called RSO, which is actually Richie Sambora and Orianthi. They recorded with Bob. Like, who else are you going to call? 2019, Bryan Adams, Shine a Light. I don't even know that album. Motley Crue, The Dirt. He produced the Dirt soundtrack. 2021, The Offspring again. 2024, that's this year. The Offspring. Well, that's something. Now, as an engineer, I'm just going to quickly read off a bunch. Prism, Survivor, Loverboy, Strange Advance, another great Canadian Vancouver band. Crocus, Chilliwack, another great Canadian band. Northern Lights, okay, you're not Canadian. USA, you remember, okay, Do They Know It's Christmas, which was Band-Aid. And then the American musicians that got together, they did USA for Africa, We Are the World. There's a documentary about that. There's the Canadian one, which is on the USA for Africa album. The Canadian one called Northern Lights. Bob Rock engineered that. Honeymoon Suite. God, there's so many great Canadian bands you might not know about. Paul Jans, talked about him. Bon Jovi, Slip You in a Wet. Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation. Bon Jovi, New Jersey. Paul Dean from Loverboy. Remember, I've talked about this constantly. Paul Dean, Hardcore. I did a thing on Blair's Record Collection about Paul Dean's Hardcore album. Kirk Hammett called him for, I guess, some kind of solo thing. Where do I'm dumbfounded by my own discussion about Bob. There you have it, man. Like Bob Rock, musical genius. Canadian treasure. Co-creator of a Schlemiel. I can't swear anymore. I get bleeped. Co-creator of a lot of your favorite music. Your favorite bands. Look at your liner notes. You have an album, like a metal album, a rock album, I guess whatever Bublé is, dance album. Look in it. See who engineered it. See who produced it. See who mixed it. And I guarantee some of the best stuff that you've ever heard in your life is Bob Rock. Bob Rock, you're a god, Bob. And your name is true. Bob definitely rocks. And in a higher echelon, that's a big word for me, than anyone I would know, which isn't that hard. Anyways, if you made it this far, God, I hope this wasn't that long, but I'm sure it was because that's what I do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe, And as always, I already mentioned share. Make sure you share, because share is a treasure. And if you can think of something, I'm just trying to think of different topics I can throw out here because I want to do the music stuff,
The music
but because
snob.
of the policy on playing other people's music, it's not worth the time. Oh well, I guess I could do it still once in a while. There's gonna be other ones I'm gonna do because I just want to talk about certain artists, and it just seems the way to go. With Bob Rock, well, I guess I could play a clip of every album, but it's already a long video. And I played a little bit of the Payolas. I recommend get yourself every Payolas CD you can, or go on YouTube and look for the Payolas and just enjoy. And if you could think of something like Bob Rock, because I guess they're talking about best album covers, best logos, stuff like that. If you can think of some great topics like that, leave a comment. And as always, we can have an open discussion here. If you're going to leave a comment, I appreciate. If you don't, be a dick. Just have a great talk. Let's talk about stuff. And we can always be civil to each other. We can have a great conversation. But anyways, as always, thanks for watching.
The Music Snob.
Where I know music. Unless it sucks.